Ladies and gentlemen, there's a great quote by Winston Churchill where he says, if you'd like me to speak for 20 minutes, I will need 2 weeks to prepare, but if you want me to speak for 5 hours, I'm ready now. And that is literally where I'm at. I have way too many slides. They're going to physically drag me off the stage, I know, but honestly, I'm exhausted, haven't had any sleep. But what I'm going to say here genuinely comes from, actually, you know what? Fuck it, right? I think we're all exhausted. I think all of us are absolutely exhausted. I was watching my brother's kids play football the other day, and you see kids playing soccer and the ball goes over here and every single 5-year-old chases the ball. And then they kick each other and then the ball comes out and it goes over here. And every single 5-year-old, 22 5-year-olds, and I thought to myself, fuck, this is like being a marketeer. It's like whatever the newest gimmick that the CEO's son is using, we get an email saying, why are we not doing this? Right? And now, on top of that, the digital hurricane is not slowing down, right? Generative AI is stepping in. David's probably, I'll give him this, way ahead of the pack on all of that. But none of us, and I'm supposed to be the head of innovation at the biggest youth media company in the world, I'm not even keeping up with it. We can't. So what I wanted to show you today was some principles, some stuff that hopefully will make you feel less exhausted. And we'll see when we drink too much later tonight. So anyway, my life before brands. In fact, Rob, this is specifically for you. So Rob and Stefan, when I first came to the WFA, the first time I ever presented, I had never worked with a brand, ever. I just worked with celebrities. So my life was, I was the chief digital officer of the biggest entertainment company in the world, right? And people, they'd be like, go and fly to this place and explain the internet to Madonna. It's like, okay. And that meeting, I can literally tell you, we did about 3 weeks of preparation. I tried to explain the internet to Madonna. I said, look, the fundamental difference between the kind of world before the internet and the world after the internet is that the internet is da-da-da-da. And you could see she was just like, right? So I did what I always do if I think I have a good idea. I give it to a competitor. So I literally went across from LA to New York and met with Lady Gaga and Troy, who's our manager, and explained, hey, look, I've got this playbook that I kind of wrote for Madonna, but she doesn't want it. Do you want it? And I'm not going to claim responsibility for Lady Gaga, but I'm being honest here. This is a market share thing, right? We should be ruthlessly obsessed with market share. And the best quote I've ever heard about market share is it's like a knife fight in a phone booth. Because we're all standing really close to each other with very similar consumer products, just trying to kill one another, right? But that's what these two were like after about 3 or 4 years. And I'm going to say something. There never really should have been a Lady Gaga in the way that there was. It was only because Madonna was so lazy in her leadership of the communities that she authentically had the right to lead, but stopped leading, that Gaga could step up and lead better. And honestly, everything you need to know about market share, brands, I'm going to argue, if you had me for longer, I'd argue that mind share as a general idea is not working. It's about myth share. But what she did was build a myth on top of her sandcastle. So what am I trying to say? I don't actually know. I work at Vice. Vice is a big youth media company. We've done things like this, you may know. I was in Doha yesterday, and somebody introduced me and said, oh, this is Mark. He did the Fire Festival. And I was like, no, I made the documentary about the disaster. I did not do it. I was not involved, right? So, and look, it would be remiss of me if I didn't say, I am the second highest creatively awarded person in the world right now. And the most highly awarded creative person in the world right now, unfortunately, was poisoned recently, but we hope he fully recovers, of course. So anyway, people keep saying, how did this happen? How did this happen? And honestly, I didn't really think about how. It was just a bunch of subconscious things that we were doing. And then I started thinking like, well, actually, I think the way we're coming about this is we're thinking in terms of design. We're not thinking in terms of advertising or marketing. And so I wanted to share with you 3 of 10 principles that I teach all my teams. And I hope it helps. But the most important thing here is that thinking like a designer is the only way out of the situation we're in, right? We can't just keep, we can't start digging up, right? We have to change what we're doing. And look, you want to talk about design, whether you believe in a God or not, this is the worst design in the world, right? Under an MRI, they ask people, think of yourself now. A lot of the brain lit up. Then they said, think of yourself in 1 year. Less. Then they said, think of yourself in 2 years. Not much. This is a fundamental design problem that we have to deal with as marketeers, as people who genuinely have probably the most responsibility of anyone to try and solve the sustainability issues we have. We, as human beings, are so fucking selfish, right? That we don't even think that we're connected to someone in the future who is also us. Right? That is how deep this is. So you couldn't design, honestly, if you could design a problem that was less likely to inspire anyone, it would be sustainability. Because this is how the human mind works. We're just like, nah, I'll just have what I can today. So basically, I'm a failed lawyer, but what lawyers would call this is a distributional issue of justice. If a pizza arrives and I take 6 slices and leave 3 slices for all of you, that's a distributional issue of justice. This is a distributional issue of justice over time. And we have to find ways to solve it. So I'm going to give you 3 design principles. Hopefully, they'll be about marketing, but I hope you'll see they're also about the issue that we're facing. So number 1, white spots versus dead spots. This just seems so obvious to anyone who's worked in popular culture or the entertainment industries, right? I never met anybody in any boardroom at Warner Brothers or Sony or any of these places that doesn't know this. The only people I've ever met that don't know this work in brands, right? And what I'm trying to say is, if I asked you guys, who are you really? And if I had all day, this is all we would do. I'd just be like, where are my fellow failed DJs in the house? This guy's literally like, yes. We aren't the way we've been told we are. And we certainly aren't the way that boardrooms think we are. And so, whatever you're into, really, your personal self, you can find a community for that, right? I read the other day that there are now there's now 170,000 subreddits about erotic vampire fiction. That's quite niche, right? But actually, when you think about it, and I thought, well, Twilight was basically erotic vampire fiction. That's $1 billion franchise. So even on that tiny little niche thing, that you would be like, that's about as niche as it gets. Well, there's $1 billion franchise on that. And so here's the interesting point, and for good and bad. Whatever you're into, you can find one another. That's the biggest shift that the internet represents. Pre-internet, I was walking around with a Radiohead t-shirt on, hopefully, a pretty girl would come up to me and say, "Me too." But not that Me Too, not the second, not the one that came later, not that one. The old Me Too when it was good, right? I was hoping someone would say, "Oh my God, I love Radiohead too." Last night I was walking through, I don't know where I was, Doha Airport, and I saw someone with a resident advisor bag. That probably means nothing to some people, most people, but it's a really hardcore electronic music thing. And I went up to her and I said, "Hey, is that a resident advisor bag?" She was like, "Yeah." And we started chatting. She's DJing soul tonight. So I was like, oh my. So people are constantly putting flares up, right? They're constantly putting flares up to say, "This is who I am." I don't suppose you're a bit weird like that too, are you? But here's the thing. That's just one room. Now, this is 3 definitions of the internet from the internet, which is very meta. But really, that's all it is, right? So you know the first rule about being not exhausted is realizing that every single new digital tool is just playing on this. This is the first principle of digital. The internet, the clue is in the name, is an interconnected set of networks. And here's the best bit about it. Those networks, they're not demographic. The advertising systems artificially built on top of the internet allow you to try and segment them because marketeers, Facebook spent years trying to convince marketeers, buy differently, don't buy demographically. They couldn't. In the end, they said, fuck it, just buy what you like, just buy your demographics. You know, this net worth, this age range, in these 5 cities, if that's how you like to do it, that's fine. Right? Sheryl Sandberg was a genius for that. Because she said, no, she said to Mark, stop trying to change the industry. They can't. But guys, unfortunately, the diminishing marginal returns of that are pretty clear. These networks are communities. Think of anything that you love. You can find a community for that online, right? And it's a network. It has network effects. Don't even get me started on that, but network effects. If you go to Silicon Valley and you have an idea to start a business, and you say it's got a great brand and you've got loads of money you're going to spend on paid media, and the first thing the VC will ask you is, what are the network effects of this business? And every marketeer will be the what? And then it'll be like, next. Right? So the point is, these networks, we can either compete with them or we can leverage them. And this was an announcement for Gaga in 2009 that she was releasing a new album. This bit here. This is literally Facebook. Remember Facebook, guys? This is literally what a network looks like when it's activated. That's literally conversation, and these lines that are coming out are lines of share. Not paid media, natural organic share. So my thing to you guys would be, we need to start designing for these white spots. Because right now, we're designing for like this. And if you think about anything, think of the most abstract thing you can. There's probably now going to be, or there already is, $1 billion business on that. If you'd gone back 20 years and said, I love meditating, people would be like, you're absolutely out of your mind. But Headspace and Calm.com are both $2 billion valuations, right? So here's the great bit. Especially young people, but all people are saying, look, guys, all that stuff in the brief, that's not how I define myself. That's how you define me. I define myself by this. And more so because the algorithms, especially TikTok, have nailed that that's who I am. TikTok knows me so well. It's like you are an aging, you're literally like just looking back in time from when you went to that rave when you were like in 15, and it's got me. I'm like, oh, you TikTok, right? And so here's the thing, the algorithms are reinforcing this. It's saying, oh, you like that, do you? Okay, cool, yeah, 3 more and then an ad, 3 more and then an ad. Of course, that's the business model. But we're not, this is controversial, guys. Brands, we're not in the internet, right? We're on it. Do you see the difference? I mean, I know this is so basic. It's like teaching a child. Like the cat is in the box. The cat is on the chair, right? You buying advertising is not being in the internet. It's being on it. And I would even go as far as say it is interrupting it. Because let's be honest, there's a button to skip our whole industry, right? Even the YouTube people, when you sit with them, they're like, fuck off, right? Do you know what I mean, right? So you can see where this is going to lead. Meanwhile, we're doing this, right? We're sitting with this imaginary consumer who has all these faculties, that some persona that was written by someone, right? And we're trying to swing a creative punch at that phantom. It's really hard. Johnny Ives didn't design the iPhone like that. He didn't go, let me swing at a demographic. He went, literally, let's look at super users and what they do. The PayPal mafia didn't go, let's invent PayPal. They were like, let's look at eBay users and exactly what they need, the most hardcore, the real white spots. And guess what? That will work for everyone else too. Apple's creative class community does not include my mum and dad, right? My dad just found out about Banksy about a week ago, right? He was like, do you know Banksy? I was like, he's Scottish, by the way. He's actually a nice guy, but he sounds like Shrek. And he was like, do you know Banksy? And I was like, Banksy the artist? He was like, aye. I was like, yeah. He was like, he's going to be very big. So there's a hint for you. But here's the thing. You know, you've seen this, I hope, but this is the ex-Prince of Wales, and this is the Prince of Darkness, Ozzy Osbourne. They're the same age, same net worth, same children, both live in Windsor outside London. Good luck. Good luck. Like, you can give the best creative director in the world the biggest bag of psychedelics, and he still can't hit that, right? So let me show you an example here. This was Lululemon. They came to us. This was their segmentation. Not too good, right? I mean, one of the best. I'm older. What is going on there, right? Anyway, so we said to them, guys, their issue was they needed to reposition, right? They were like, we are too white, too middle class, and borderline Karen brand, right? We're borderline like, kind of like, no, send the wine back, right? And they knew it. So we were like, you've got to get younger, you've got to get cooler, you've got to get more Gen Z. So we were like, okay, what are the principles of the brand? Because, of course, what you do is you get pulled out of position by your competitors, right? So they were like, oh, Nike's doing this, and Adidas is doing that, and Sweaty Betty's doing this. We're like, no, fuck that. Who are you? Oh, well, we're yoga. But yoga's niche. We're like, okay, well, let's make it not niche. Do you see what I mean? Because you've painted yourself into that corner with incense and downward-facing dog and sun salutations. You did that to yourself. Let's reverse it. Let's make it not niche, right? So what we did was we went and we used artificial intelligence, a company called Codec.ai, stands for Community-Driven Economy, and we said, here are the principles of Lululemon. Breathing and flow, compassion, non-violence, etc. All the stuff that was written in their first ever manifesto. Like literally like the thing that was like in the CEO's drawer that he hadn't looked at for years. And then we said, listen across the communities, the networks I was telling you about, right? And find where terms like that come up again and again and again and again and again and again. They don't have to be the same, but they have to be similar. They have to be in the same word cloud. And we got this. Breathing and flow, if you're trying to reposition, you could say, be perfect for scuba divers. But that's another bunch of white middle class people, right? But you know what else is constantly a network, which is, by the way, not niche, that's constantly talking about flow? Hip-hop. Because if you're a sick rapper, I'm not going to be able to say this because I am that white middle-class guy, but if you're a sick rapper, it's because you've got sick flow. You say, Jay-Z's got sick flow. And you'll be surprised to know that the arts and crafts community is also very big. But people who knit their own jumpers, they don't knit their jumpers because they can't afford a jumper. They knit their jumpers because they love the physical meditation of knitting. That's what arts and crafts basically is. So we're now suddenly taking this thing that is the soul of the brand and going back out to these white spots, really big, exponentially growing white spots in the internet, not on it. And I'll show you quickly, and then I'm probably going to get chucked off. Turn it up. Turn it really up loads. Loads. So 2 things. Every single second of that is product. Thank you. In answer to the question, how much should the product feature in the content? The answer is make an idea so good that the product is in every single millisecond. Every single second of that is a different line that we produced for those different communities. But every single second of that is product, right? But they're going to chuck me off now. I just want to say, really, this is the opportunity to not be exhausted, right? I'm sitting here in front of genuinely some heroes, right? Literally people that I read and watch and consume everything they do, and it's probably scary for them to hear that. But we are in a room today of some fucking smart people. We need to get away from that exhaustion to do great work and to solve bigger problems. So if there's one thing I would say to you guys is the opportunity of the internet, and I might even say in a nice way, unless you're thinking about strategically activating networks every day, you're not digital. But once you claim that and you go, okay, right, I get the opportunity to make contributions to these networks, so I'm in, then by all means buy all the reach and frequency and efficient CPM that you can possibly do and do exactly what Byron Sharp tells you, right? But start with a myth that you build with. And bringing this back to sustainability, this is about us realizing that there are so many networks and communities that we could easily work with. We're taking it. We think that the best thing a consumer can possibly do for us is buy our product. Consumers are dying to be more involved. We're in the era of user-generated brands. None of this means you don't do a big paid media play at the end. You do. But you start with something that you build with. And so it's almost like with advertising and then advertising, right? I don't know why, but sometimes people always go, oh, wait a minute, it's all about community networks. No, well, yeah, step 1. And then step 2, Rigid frequency and efficient CPM to keep ideas salient and top of mind, all that stuff, right? But look at the results on this. Lululemon jumped 29.2%. The stock doubled. They own yoga now. Nike gave up. They were like, fuck it. Don't even bother with yoga. It's done. Right? That's what you want. Why does this link to the situation with sustainability? Because if we keep sitting in our boardrooms with a purpose document on a PDF, wondering, I mean, it's like when I was at university, I used to smoke weed and be like, what's my purpose, right? Like, it doesn't matter what your purpose is. What is your contribution? And there are communities out there all day, every day, desperately seeking help. And I don't mean, it doesn't have to be, by the way, Turkish Airlines, what you did, sending dogs back in first class, absolutely incredible, right? That's not brand purpose, that's brand contribution. And I would say, Connie, like the work that you guys do at Unilever is goosebump. I mean, the new Dove work, it's too good. But how long and how many fights must you have to play the long game and the short game, right? Because you still got to do product, but you've also got a purpose that I don't even know if any brand can touch. And just coming back, I want you to feel not exhausted because we can't solve this problem if we're absolutely dead. How are we going to put on top of everything else that we've got? How are we going to put, and also, can you please save the world? It's like, here's your job, do this, hit quarterly earnings, your CMO is going to be gone in 18 months, right? How the hell are we going to do it? So the best gift, I hope this was useful, but the best gift I would love to give you is sanity. I know that I am an insane person, but I can give you sanity. And that is this. The internet is an interconnected set of networks. Those networks are constantly either shaping the world that we live in, right? The opportunity is to be in those networks and then advertise. And if you just do that, work starts working. I've got to go now. Thank you so much.